So today's talk is Careers That Matter, How Your Skills Can Shape a Sustainable Future. And my name is Dr. Aideen Foley. I'm a reader in Environment and Society in our School of Social Sciences, and I'm an environmental geographer. I research all things to do with weather and climate and the impact on people, from historical research on vulnerability in the past to community engagement today, to climate model evaluation to see how well do we know what might happen in the future. So anything to do with weather and climate is what I like to learn more about. So in this talk, we're going to discuss what a green job is and the skills you might need to get one. You'll learn that there are multiple paths to building a greener world, and I'll share some advice on finding your path. We'll see some of the diverse roles that our graduates have gone on to, and hear about some of the fab research that's happening across Birkbeck schools and faculties. And lastly, I'll talk a little bit about Birkbeck's approach to environmental education provision. So first things first, what exactly is a green job? There's a growing awareness that the environment really is central to everything we do. A healthy environment is crucial for human health, for secure livelihoods, for safe communities, and so much more. And it's worth pointing out that the green jobs sector is growing. The PwC Green Jobs Barometer tracked a 9.2% increase in green jobs adverts in 2024. Now, that research defined green jobs as roles that seek to either produce or provide environmentally friendly products and services, or adapt work processes to become more environmentally friendly or use fewer natural resources. And if you think about that definition, what it really helps us to realize is that green jobs are not a specific niche. Sustainability and climate change touches every career. There's always going to be ways to make work processes more environmentally friendly, for example. And what this also means is that even when a job title doesn't sound like it connects with the environment, it doesn't mean that that's the case. It's most likely that environment and sustainability does come into it in some way. So let's think about this by looking through some of the different sectors and the ways in which environment and sustainability issues could come to the fore. A survey of over 200,000 11 to 18-year-olds by the National Body for Careers Education, the Careers and Enterprise Company, asked secondary school students about their job choices, and it listed the top 10 job choices for young people. You might have some guesses about what the top 3 sectors are. If so, you can add those in the chat. And we'll talk through some of the ways in which environment and sustainability comes into each one. Any guesses for the top sector? Okay, nothing coming through on the chat, but perhaps, okay. Someone says tech finance. These are good guesses. And these do feature on the list, but let me show you what the list says. So the top one was creative and media. Then we have healthcare, business and finance, engineering, law and legal, construction, sports, digital, science and research, and teaching. Those were the top 10 job choices for young people. So let's think about how each of those job choices might be a green job choice. So within creative and media, you might work promoting environmental awareness through content creation and storytelling, and that's a role that some of our grads have gone into. Or you might be using sustainable practices in media production, so think reducing the carbon footprints of film and TV sets. In healthcare, you could be addressing the health impacts of climate change, so think about heat stress or vector-borne diseases spreading into new areas. Or you might be implementing sustainable practices in hospital operations. For example, a few years ago, I was a co-author on a paper that was looking at the carbon saving of telemedicine for specialist epilepsy clinics, where patients have to drive from all over the country to one site for appointments. What are the carbon savings if some of that moves to online? In business and finance, you could be integrating environmental, social, and governance factors into corporate strategies. Again, this is a role that a lot of our graduates have gone on to. Or you could be developing and launching eco products as a sustainability entrepreneur. And this is something where Birkbeck offers incubator programs for getting business ideas up and running. Within engineering, you might be thinking about designing sustainable infrastructure like flood barriers or developing renewable energy solutions like wind and solar. And within law and legal sectors, you might be developing legal frameworks for environmental issues or advocating for climate justice and protecting the rights of communities affected by environmental degradation and climate change. Then if we look at construction, there's space there for building energy efficient and environmentally structures and implementing sustainable urban planning. Sports is an area where there's a lot of scope for green jobs, reducing the environmental impact of sports events. So think zero waste initiatives at events like marathons. You might also have heard of Forest Green Rovers, which claims to be the first vegan football team and has embedded environmental concerns in all their operations. So space for green jobs there. Within the digital sector, which a couple of you mentioned, there's scope for reducing the carbon footprint of digital tech and infrastructure and promoting sustainable digital services like virtual events. Science and research is a clear one. There's a lot of need for more research into climate change and other environmental problems to innovate solutions to these problems. And lastly, teaching is a space where there's a growing concern about integrating sustainability into curricula, integrating environmental education at all stages of education and schooling, and also implementing sustainability plans within schools and education providers. So clearly, in any sector, there's going to be scope for green roles. So in order to enter these kinds of fields, in order to do these kinds of jobs, what are the skills that are in demand? So in preparation for speaking to you today, I spoke to some of our graduates about what skills they find most valuable in their current roles. And these are some of the things that they said. Firstly, evidence synthesis, which was about reading and comprehending empirical and theoretical research papers efficiently and effectively and quickly grasping the author's perspectives and key arguments. They found this a really useful skill. And at Birkbeck, we would be developing this through assessments like policy briefs, which aim to replicate real-world tasks. Another skill that grads found useful was stakeholder analysis, analysing sustainability issues from multiple perspectives and navigating competing views of different stakeholders. Again, this is something we practice through things like role plays, simulations, and case studies to help us hone this skill. Geographic Information Science, or GIS, was another key skill. In fact, grads that hadn't taken our module on GIS often said they wished they had. And this is about collecting, analysing, and visualising spatial data, including creating maps and dashboards to communicate your findings. And this is, again, something that you learn through experiential learning, learn by doing at Birkbeck. Critical thinking is about assessing, in the case of the work that our grads did, was something that they felt was useful for assessing the actions and messaging of individuals, companies, and organisations to help distinguish greenwash from real solutions. And critical thinking is something that's embedded in everything we do, from class discussions to essays to dissertation projects. And here I think it's important to highlight that at Birkbeck, we really are learning in a community. We're always questioning each other and drawing on all the experience in the room to better understand a topic, which promotes that critical thinking. And lastly, communication was a skill that a lot of our grads use day to day, writing for different audiences, including the academic audience, public, policymakers, businesses, as well as using other forms of communication like presenting. And again, this is embedded in our diverse assessment strategy. So these were just some of the skills that our graduates felt they use day to day and that helped them to succeed in their green jobs. So with all of these options, with all of these possibilities in terms of green careers, how do you find your path? I feel like it's important to tell you here that our graduates always tell us that their career journey has had twists and turns. We maybe expect our career path to be quite linear and go in one direction. In actual fact, it always has these twists and turns. People don't always know what they're going to be doing in 5 years, 10 years time. So if you don't have everything planned out, that's okay. With that said, a tool that can be quite useful for finding your path or finding what you might like to do is something called the climate Venn diagram. And this was popularized by a climate scientist called Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. And what it essentially is about is finding where different your skills, your passions, and the work that needs to be done intersect. So if we think about this as a Venn diagram, one section is the things that you're good at. So what are the skills? What are the resources? What do you bring to the table? Another section of our Venn diagram is what work needs to be done. So what problems need to be solved? What are the environmental problems that need to be solved? And then lastly, we need to think about what brings us joy, because we'll be in our careers for a long time and there's no point in doing something that doesn't bring you joy. And if we think about each of these three things in turn, then at the center is our climate action. Mapping out these things can sometimes help us to find our path. So there's a lot to unpack here, but if you feel like your climate action is becoming more apparent to you, feel free to add your answers in the chat. How do the things that you're good at, the work that needs to be done, and the things that bring you joy combine to lead you to the kind of impact, kind of climate action that you want to take in your career? And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to share some examples of students who found their path, so graduate success stories. So first we have Francesca, and Francesca had a background in graphic design and came to Birkbeck to study our BSc in Environmental Management, which has since been renamed to Environment and Sustainability. So same degree, different name. She found that she had a talent for GIS and stayed at Birkbeck to do an MSc in GIS. And she now works for an environmental NGO that looks at illegal trade in wildlife. And as a communication support officer, she creates tools like visualizations and infographics to convey important messages to the public. So she's harnessed things that she had a passion for and that to do the work that needs to be done here. Who studied our BSc in environmental science. And during that BSc, he found that he had a talent for data analysis and stats, but he also liked to work outdoors. The question then is how to combine these different things. And his role as a catchment monitoring officer at Southeast Rivers Trust, as you can see in the photo, definitely combines these things. He's out collecting water samples to test if conservation projects are having an impact, and then gets to analyze that data back at the office. So you could see how it's a combination of skills and passions and the work that needs to be done coming together in both of these examples. The research being carried out at Birkbeck also highlights the diversity of ways to contribute to solving environmental issues. So I've highlighted just three of my colleagues from different schools within Birkbeck to give a taste of some of the research that's going on. First, we've got Dr. Simon Pooley from the School of Social Sciences. He's a member of the International Union for Conservation of Nature Human-Wildlife Conflict Task Force, which is a global advisory group of experts working on interdisciplinary approaches to wildlife conservation. Next, we've got Professor James Hammond, who's based in the School of Natural Sciences, and he directs a research centre where he works with international scientists and scientists from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea to study volcanic hazards. And lastly, we have Dr. Anna Hartnell, who is based in the School of Creative Arts, Culture and Communication, and her work explores the intersections of contemporary literature, race, and the environmental humanities. So across very different schools, very different disciplinary areas, we have people who are working on environmental issues through these different disciplinary lenses. And if you'd like to know more about the research that's happening at Birkbeck around environment and sustainability issues, you can visit the website of the Birkbeck Research Centre for Environment and Sustainability to learn more about what's going on. You can also have a look at the Birkbeck events page to see upcoming events to do with environment and sustainability. So coming to study environment and sustainability at Birkbeck, what makes us different? What is our approach? It's worth pointing out that Birkbeck has a long history of diverse student body. We offer flexible study to accommodate work and other commitments. We've been providing world-class training in environmental issues since the late 1800s. That's when we started teaching geography at Birkbeck. And now we have environmental degrees in lots of different disciplinary areas. So the arts, the sciences, the social sciences to help you achieve your goals. So no matter what direction you want to go, there will be something to help you achieve your goals. There will be a program that is suited to your interests. We've been widening our environmental offer to make sure that there are these different routes for every student, no matter what their talents. And at the undergrad level, these are the programs that are on offer. We have the BSc Environment and Sustainability and the BSc in Geography, which are sort of like sister programs. They share some of the same modules. And they bring together the ecological and social dimensions of environment and sustainability, building understanding of environmental challenges with an aim of addressing them for societal good. Next, we have the BSc in Environmental Geoscience, which is based in the School of Natural Sciences, where you can learn about applications of geoscience in solving environmental challenges and managing the need for Earth's resources in ways that minimizes damage to the environment. We have the BA in Environment, Culture and Communication, which is an arts and humanities-led approach to environment and sustainability issues with an emphasis on environmental advocacy and engagement. And we also offer an environmental minor for students enrolling on programs that don't typically engage with environmental themes. You can take 90 credits of optional environmental modules to qualify for a minor award. And at the postgraduate level, we have the MSc in Environment and Sustainability, which is a program that I'm involved in teaching, which explores the relationship between scientific understanding, policy management, and the development of effective strategies for addressing a broad range of environmental issues. We have the MSc Climate Change, which is another program that I'm involved in delivering, which is about understanding climate change more specifically as an environmental issue and how people, governments, and other organizations are responding to it. We have the MSc in Sustainable Cities, which is examining the nature of environmental challenges in unequal cities, where the risks and impacts are often unevenly distributed across geographies and social demographics. And we've got the LLM Law with Environmental Law, Governance and Policy, where you can develop the theoretical and practical knowledge crucial for understanding how policy, the law, and governance structures respond to environmental problems. It's also worth pointing out that we offer bursary opportunities specifically for students enrolling on environmental programs. There are 5 bursaries of £5,000 available under the Legal and General Sustainable Leaders Bursary Scheme for students from diverse backgrounds who want to study environment and sustainability courses at Birkbeck. Of course, the environmental challenges we face are constantly evolving, and so are the solutions. Environment and sustainability is therefore a really dynamic field with new theory and practice constantly developing. And we're always updating our teaching materials to respond to the latest developments and spot the emerging trends. Our graduates will attest that studying an environmental degree will help you develop the skills needed to tackle pressing global challenges like climate change, resource depletion, and biodiversity loss. So the only question left is, what will your green career be?